It came fast. I remember at the start of that week in March, the week before everything started shutting down, one of our longtime board members and my personal mentor for many years passed away. And then at the end of that week, all of the schools started shutting down, and it just started happening rapidly. We were in a meeting and somebody was watching a news feed saying, okay, Wyoming's down, Connecticut's down, California's down, and all of it state by state shutting down. And we lost millions of dollars in booked revenue that afternoon.
Early March, things started to change. We were hearing about COVID in the news, and we knew it was coming this way and that life was going to change, but I don't think we fully comprehended that.
Our wholesale and our food service orders went down, especially the restaurants, because they had to close. So all of a sudden we lost that business.
It's affected everyone. I don't think that we ever really got a breath through it. When COVID started to become a thing in Saskatoon and we started to have public health orders and a real understanding that we could be in trouble, we had to reinvent our business. You're kind of finding us in the eye of the storm right now where everything is moving but calm.
And so we didn't have time to say, wow, what are we going to do? We didn't have time to really think. We just saw our life's work crumbling before our eyes. Our whole business was about to be gone in a heartbeat. I'm Greg Sutton, the CEO and co-founder of Tiny Eye Therapy Services. We founded our business in 2005, and we're one of the first companies in the world to provide online speech therapy services. We've been doing that in about 21 countries, 5 different languages, and have served over 25,000 kids.
I'm Marnie Brick.
Hi, Robotics. I can be in 2 places at once. Can you?
The Tiny Eye story starts with a brother and a sister, and the little brother was just so caring and compassionate for the plight of his sister that he thought, hey, I can be a solution, and that's how it began. And because of that, we've been able to stick around 15 years and help children all over the world.
My name is Melanie Bolt. I'm the co-owner of Pine View Farms All Natural Meats at Osler. I farm here with my husband, and we've been here for 22 years.
My wife Melanie and I farm, process, and market meat from this location. I'm from right here. I grew up about 1.5 miles away as the crow flies. This is my great-grandfather's homestead that we're on right now.
I'm a typical prairie kid, small town kid, so I've never really strayed too far from home.
Saskatchewan is home. It's where our family is, it's where our business is, it's where there's opportunity.
I'm Sean Moen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 9 Mile Legacy Brewing. My family comes from a farm down in the southwest corner of the province. I think it's been 5 generations up to me, and Garrett's got a very similar story.
I grew up in Abbey, Saskatchewan. The family farm is still down there, so hence the 9 Mile Legacy. Sean's original homestead and my original family homestead are 9 miles apart, and that family history definitely helps out, and building the legacy around a business definitely puts a lot of pressure on you to execute.
Welcome to Tiny Eye. This is our home and our space, and now we're in the odd situation where we've got a big space, but we don't have people coming to work every day. They're all working from home. So there's a couple people that are coming in now, and this is Marnie. She's working from home as well, out of Alberta. We can show you a little bit around. I'd been working with tech entrepreneurs for about 3 or 4 years and get to see the ins and outs of their business, how they were thriving, how they were not. And this is one of our development offices, and this is Eduardo. He's working at the office today and has been for a while now. And I thought, you know what, I can do this. I can start a tech company. And so I was out looking for problems that I could solve.
How are you, Marnie? Happy to see you, Eduardo. And I'm happy to see you have a space in the office because I know it was really busy when you were working at home with your wife and kids.
And finally, it was in talking to my sister Marnie, who is a speech language pathologist, and I found out that she spent about half her day driving from one school to the next.
My brother would call me frequently to check in and say, how are you doing? And he got really tired of hearing, I'm doing paperwork. Why? Because I drive all day. Why? Because I have so many kids to see in so many places.
And I thought, wow, 7 years of school to spend half your day in your car and then spend your evenings doing paperwork. That's not right. If we could eliminate that driving time, we can double her effectiveness.
I was bringing a problem, and he had enough of that. He had a solution. He said, Marnie, why don't we just beam you in to your schools? I'll build it for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm a speech teacher. I help people communicate.
And so I threw the idea at her, and she said, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's try it. It's like, oh, okay. And that's where we started Tiny Eye from. So the idea took about 10 minutes, and to build the business has taken, 15 years.
Well, I always said I would never marry a farmer, and I didn't think I wanted to be a farmer either. I thought, I'm gonna head to the bright lights in the big city and get a big wheel marketing job, but love takes you in a different direction that you never expect life to go. The realities of farming are different than the nostalgic dreams we all have, as I soon found out.
I grew up milking cows. We were a pretty big farm in the area, from the grain to the livestock. Taking part in all of that without knowing set me up for what I'm doing today.
When we bought this farmyard, it had a small existing farm gate chicken business. The former owners were raising a few chickens and selling them, and we thought, oh, that'll fit in really nicely between seeding and haying and harvest and the cows we already had on our other farm. Welcome to Pineview Farms. This is where we live and work and make food for our community. Over on this side is where the work actually gets done. That's where we raise all our chickens. They come in as day-old chicks and they go to our butcher shop, which is further down the driveway. Then they go happily in a bag to people's homes for dinner. We had customers coming and they started asking us, well, hey, do you do beef? Well, of course we do beef. We raise cows. Why not add that to the mix? And then people said, I'm really hungry for bacon. And we said, aha, pigs, we can do that too. And lambs, and then sausage grew out of that, and snack sticks. And so we really realized that we could gain a greater share of our customers' food dollar by adding to our product line.
So we decided that our little fledgling business had a lot of potential and was growing. And as we grew, we just didn't have the expertise to do it all. So we focused on the chickens, we focused on the slaughter, we focused on meat processing, we focused on marketing.
Our strategy with marketing has always been to create a brand that when people need what we have, they're going to think of our name and feel good about us and click us first when they go to Google search local meat, natural meat, organic meat. When they see our name, they'll go, I know them, I feel good about them, let's start there.
We decided to specialize, and it's kind of how most farmers end up going, is you specialize in something.
There's lots of easier ways to make a living than brewing beer, let me tell you.
Typically, in most breweries you're going to go into, they have probably a 12 to 16 foot ceiling. This brewery is just shy of 8 feet, so it's not typical. Usually like a little bit more headspace just to fit tanks in and stuff. But you know, we made it work. Some of them were custom fabricated to make it work for the building. We really like the location, being in Riversdale, in the community down here, so it just works well for our tap room and what we do.
I think a reason why our business resonates in our community is because we each share a similar story. We each have our own legacies, right? A lot of us are still not that far removed from the farm.
There's a parallel between farming and 9 Mile. We have to work together, we have to be a team, we have to help our neighbors.
Our families are really close. Garrett's grandpa used to work for my great-grandpa, so there's lots of different linkages with the Mowens and Petersons, and it's been a century of linkages. We tripped over the name 9 Mile Legacy as we were kind of thinking about who we were, you know, and realizing that if we were to symbolize our partnership, it really has to reflect a century of collaboration. We came up with a lot of different names and logos, right from the first batch of beer that we made in my garage.
Lo and behold, I mean, we made this magical sparkling beverage that you call beer that I never thought you could make in your home. That was kind of the hook. From that day, you know, we were always talking about, okay, what's our bar going to be called, or our brewery, or whatever. We didn't really know at the time. And that kind of bled into every conversation. We just kept making beer together. We pretty much homebrewed together until we started 9 Mile in 2015.
We are an export market. We've been built on exports. Farmers way too often end up being price takers and don't really get compensated for their expenses.
We really had no control, or next to no control, over price, exchange rate, global markets, transportation.
You get what the market gives you.
And sometimes things don't work out the way you planned.
Around 2000 to 2001, found it very quickly that if you don't get rain, it doesn't work very well, especially when you're starting and you have large debt.
And so for us, those early years of farming with drought and grasshoppers and low prices really transformed our thinking about what was sustainable for us.
It was just taking too many resources. With our size, our acreage, we just didn't have the wherewithal to carry on.
We made the really hard decision to let go of the land and tell Kevin's dad we're no longer going to do that, but here's the new thing we're going to do. We're going to take a risk and we're going to build this meat business into something that's sustainable.
Sometimes it is the hard decision to make, but I don't think there's a time where we regret it. It's always turned out well. It's always been the right thing to do.
How much solar power are you producing today?
Just checked my phone and we're making about 45 kilowatts.
It does mean our business is more complex in a lot of ways. We're not just shipping out a live animal on a truck for someone else to look after. We're connected to the end consumer, but that is what has made us sustainable financially.
It's a really management-intensive business that they're in, and they seem to be able to get it all to work together. And I think with most businesses that end up in that situation, something falls off the plate because it's just too complex for them. And Kevin and Melanie don't let stuff fall off the plate very often.
So what we do is really a mini scale of a larger plant.
Yeah, this is
a lot more hands-on, a lot more bodies to make it all happen.
This is the same system you'd see in a large plant. It's just
built for us.
Miniaturized. The nice thing about it was that in just the grain farming, you couldn't use your skills as well either. And so another decision point was that by starting this fledgling business, we could both use our skill sets.
In 2009, we joined with some business partners and opened Soleo Foods in Saskatoon.
They were very forward-thinking when they wanted to set up a grocery store, restaurant, and farm that tied everything together so that the consumer could see where that food was being produced.
Just doing a whole new thing takes a tremendous amount of energy. And then admittedly, our partnership went awry. So we had some really hard, expensive lessons to learn there. And then we were able to turn the business around, but not to the point that we felt that we could run it in the long term and run our farm. So we had to make some really hard decisions.
The concept was just so beautiful, and it was just a little bit too early. And you can see that in businesses throughout the world. You've always got to have that innovator that takes that bold step, and everybody looks at it and says, that's exactly where we're going.
I think life teaches you the most through love and loss, and we've experienced both.
Once we had Tiny Eye ready to share, I was so excited. However, it turned out the world wasn't ready for us yet.
Video calling wasn't a thing. It was like Star Trek.
13 years ago, the internet was not what it is today. You know, quality was choppy, but what Marnie and Greg have achieved was amazing.
Regulatory bodies were also not ready for this type of service. When I say regulatory bodies, specifically I'm talking about the community of the speech therapists who create the code of ethics and the best practices.
She had given everything she had to help these kids out, and she was really in it for the kids, not for the paycheck, not for all those other things. And for people to tell her, no, you have to stop helping these kids who haven't been seen in years, it was heartbreaking for her.
I was so proud to bring this to my community, and yet they acted like it was a threat.
But it also gave her the strength and determination to overcome. And we used to say, you know, if at the end of the day we're the only ones standing up for these kids, then alone we shall stand.
If I would have been building Tiny Eye on my own, that might have been the last day. I am so grateful for my brother. He brought the belief and the courage and the tenacity to lead the way through the barriers without apology.
And I often thought of Gandhi's quote, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And that's exactly what happened to us.
7 years later, my home province upgraded their regulations to include online therapy as a best practice. Growing a business with my brother is one of the most special things I'll do in my life. And sometimes I think back to the early days though, and it was the hardest time of our lives. And there were days when I missed my brother. I missed our childhood of just being together as brother and sister and enjoying our days together. But instead the stakes were so high, and if anyone was going to make it happen, it had to be us.
I don't think a lot of people really saw the potential and beauty in this. I'm sure that we had eyebrows raised from friends and family, clients, as to what the heck we got ourselves involved in.
There was definitely a lot of risk quitting our careers and taking a leap.
We had thought a lot about starting a nano-sized brewery, which is a really, really tiny brewery, for a while, and did research and discounted it as it being too hard of a way to start in a lot of ways. Everything we'd read was that you work too hard and you won't make money.
There's like a website dedicated to like, don't start smaller than this. You'll never make money, you'll never make it work. Yeah.
So why did we do it?
When he sets his mind to something, he goes for it. He's not a quitter. He follows his heart, which is very important.
Garrett and I brewed together for I think 7 years before we decided to quit our jobs. And it nagged at us over the years, to the point where Garrett's wife Lacey told us that we either start a brewery or we stop talking about it.
I was actually at a point where I was making more money, working regular hours. I had stock options and benefits. It was just like, it was where you wanted to be, essentially.
But there's also professional risk. I'm sure a lot of my profession thought that I was crazy, throwing away a spot at one of the best firms in the country.
And I gave that all up to essentially make less money, work twice as hard, not have benefits, kind of do our own thing.
I don't think he would have changed his job but for beer.
It hasn't been a straight A to B line. It's kind of a zigzag as you go in business.
I was more concerned about how I would feel 25 years down the road, and realizing that I had an opportunity to do something meaningful and that struck at the core of who I wanted to be, and I didn't take that opportunity. On March 16th, we closed our tap room just before the public health order required us to do so. We'd concluded that it just wasn't safe, and we started to see all of our clients in the city follow suit very shortly after.
We lost all our restaurant accounts because restaurants closed. And so there were a few sleepless nights where we were like, what are we gonna do? Like, we have animals growing. They need to be processed. We need to make the meat. Nature doesn't stop here, so we need to keep going. Who is going to buy this?
March 12th, March 13th is when schools across North America started shutting down, and all of our customers are schools.
Yeah, the brewery definitely slowed down to a quarter or half of our production, probably. Beer sales just weren't nearly as much, especially with all the bars and restaurants shutting down.
Just before St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is Christmas Day for breweries, and we closed our taproom just before it. So we probably saw 80% of our business disappear overnight as a result.
March, I remember nothing. It's been a whirlwind, the whole COVID and rejigging, throwing out the business plan, making a new one, trying to figure out where things are going.
And I panicked, thinking, how are we going to find our customers? How are we going to find our kids?
None of the schools really had plans. It's happened so fast. A lot of the parents' contact information was out of date. The technology at home wasn't up to par. So we had to work with about 800 different school buildings to help them organize their kids, to help them get services at home.
We were just gearing up for the Junos that weekend. We were hosting some shows, and we had brewed a special beer for the Junos, our 999th batch of beer in special Junos growlers. And so we had all of these pre-filled growlers that didn't have a home.
With COVID, you don't really know the certain regulations you gotta follow, or maybe we were gonna get shut down, like who knows.
Emotionally, I think the hardest thing with COVID is managing people's expectations and anxieties and fears.
When COVID hit, basically what we were doing was asking our staff to step on the front lines because they all continued to come to work and we didn't really know what would happen with other people around us.
For our staff and for our customers, we made the hard decision to close our shop to the public.
You know, there's always a risk, and so we increased everybody's wage to compensate for that.
I felt incredible responsibility for the wellness of the people who worked with us. So while I'm also concerned about our company and will it be here next week, I was worried about how our people were feeling and how they were going to be coping.
But at the time, it's kind of like you're going along your boat and you get hit by a missile and everything's all over the water. You just got to dive in and start building, patching the hole and putting the pieces back together.
We've all been going through a situation where we've been scared for our financial livelihood, scared for our health, and scared for the health of our loved ones and for our community.
On day 2, March 17th, we called the town hall meeting with 50 corporate employees and let them know what was going on, that we had a new vision, a new strategic plan, that we're not laying off people, that we had worked relentlessly to save up a nest egg in the business that we could sustain a 6 to 12 months period without any revenue. And this was before there were any of the government support programs happening, anything was known.
When the panic of the pandemic hit, people really had to get responsible and specific, and so you started to see the structure build.
It really helps you focus on what you need to do. So, you know, we really had to dial in, focus on certain tasks, like creating the online store, different ways to do social media, even just packaging our beer, figuring out more efficient ways to do that too.
I remember on March 13th, that was the last day our team was all together in this office, and they've never all been here since. However, because a lot of our team members already worked in a virtual space, we were able to continue connecting and working and building. We didn't miss a beat.
So smile everyone, you're on TV.
We lost all of our wholesale accounts, well, all of our food service accounts, I should say, because all the restaurants had to close, restaurants, hotels, everybody closed. Retail skyrocketed. Fortunately, we had a website where you could order online, and we launched a new one shortly after COVID started that we'd been working on for the previous 6 months.
Our staff worked super hard to produce about 6 weeks worth of meat production in 3 so that we could refill the freezers and keep meeting customer demands. Because for us, it was like, oh my goodness, we have all these new people coming to our door. We need to serve them well. We need to fill their orders. This is our opportunity to really make a statement in the community and gain a foothold.
First thing was we needed to be the best in the world at transferring kids from schools into homes and getting them set up for home therapy. And we call it all hands on deck. And that's what we'd done in the past every time we'd had these types of catastrophic events in our business. Most of them were caused by us in the past. This is one of the first that was really caused by the outside world. But nonetheless, all hands on deck mode is what you need to do.
Getting our team together, coming up with a plan, we were able to keep everybody on staff the whole time, whether it was coming up with a COVID emergency plan or new SOPs in the brewery or new taproom procedures. We had to get really creative, creating new kind of work.
And so it didn't matter if you're the CEO yesterday and today you're calling parents or you're writing programs. That's what we needed to do. We didn't need people worried about titles, this, that, the other thing. We needed people worried about moving forward. That's all.
We had long days. We put in 16-hour days. It was quite a whirlwind. It's settled down now. We're seeing a little bit more of a routine establish again.
They looked after their people. That was the important part. You know, they looked after their staff, they looked after their, their community, and by doing so, they were able to push through it and carry on.
We needed to figure out how to create a sales channel and create high margin sales so that we could keep our people employed and protected. And that was a really important thing for us to do, and I'm really proud that we were able to do that throughout, and the sort of effort that we got from to a person through that period is why we're still standing.
All of a sudden, consumers realized, oh my goodness, I think I want to support local. Oh my goodness, there's not meat in the grocery store. I can't get what I want. What am I going to do? And then they remembered Pineview Farms.
We had to create our own reality and say, if this is going to be the world in which we must survive, then we're going to find a way to thrive.
The first thing we did was reshape our vision, and we came up with a 6-month scope of our vision to say that regardless of where the world is within 6 months, whether COVID is still a thing or not, if we're under lockdown or not, we're going to be the most well-positioned to succeed in this new world.
What we'll offer is we're going to offer 3 taproom pods. So we'll end up having 3 tables. Each table will have its own bathroom. And so you can reserve it for about an hour and a half. Safety is going to be paramount in making sure that people have a fun way to get out, but also a very safe way to get out. So it's time, to welcome people back in and figure out how to do that.
One of the things we kept front and center was COVID is just one variable. There's still all the other variables you need to keep in mind while running your business.
At the end of the day, we defaulted to what we know through meat processing, keeping food safe, and built on what we were hearing from the health authorities.
And we didn't really have time to say, hey, maybe we should go left instead of right, or right instead of left. It's like, we're going this way, let's go.
The issues that are presenting themselves in this pandemic are just like the issues that were before, they're just on steroids.
Hard work pays off.
Yeah.
It does, and perseverance. And not every year turns out the way you want it to, but you look forward to next year.
But it's all worthwhile, and we have a really good work product at the end of it, and it's helped create our systems to be a little bit sharper and a little bit better.
I love coming to the office and walking in the door, and I was so happy to see that there are people here today, and just feeling the energy of being with the team again. I was sincerely excited to be here.
Yeah, so this is essentially our next home. It's at the corner of 21st and Avenue D, and it's going to be our new production space. So we are essentially going to be installing behind us a 20 hectoliter brew house, putting some of our core beers that we haven't packaged previously into production, getting them into cans and getting them out to the market.
We worked really hard, but there have been some moments that we've been together like we haven't been in a long time, and I wouldn't trade that.
Hopefully most people found that. I think that was a big thing, is that families had to get back together.
Had to slow down.
And had to slow down. There was no events to go to, no activities to go to. They had to actually sit down and eat dinner together. And if one good thing came out of COVID, I think that's probably it.
We all have an idea as to where we come from, and we're unpacking that, I think, individually. We all know what it means to be a good neighbor. In this province, you need to have somebody who's prepared to push you out of a ditch when it snows, right? And I think 9 Mile is lucky enough to remind people of that on occasion.
And they share the same vision, providing quality, providing variety, providing joy for people in the community. They're real community-minded people.
In general, what I saw in the business community was an immediate outpouring of support. And so something we did within our business, and something I told my team often and reflected upon often, is, while the rest of the world is out there going crazy trying to find the light in all of this darkness, our job isn't to go out and find the light. Our job is to be the light. Our job is to be that beacon of hope and help people through this. And that's how we're going to thrive and survive. And that's how our customers, our schools, our staff, our employees are going to survive, as if we are the ones that can guide them through that.
I think it's one of the most challenging things is to actually go into business with a family member. However, Greg and Marnie have successfully done that. They're able to talk through any issues they have with each other.
There's been times when I thought, oh, I just miss my brother. I miss having that joyful, careless relationship where we just focus on the good stuff. And here we're stuck saving the business again. However, it's not a mountain, it's a mountain range. And we love climbing mountains. And if that's the mindset, then you have it in you to keep going.
I think Saskatchewan's actually in a great spot, has a great opportunity. Our business and businesses like us who produce food in Saskatchewan, I think have a great opportunity to build on what's been established through COVID. People have gone out and supported local businesses.
Saskatchewan people are truly unique, and I think what we can offer the rest of the world is lessons in resilience. There's this common thread of resilience that weaves through this entire province. our businesses are going to be able to grow, and the rest of the world just won't see us coming. Saskatchewan is going to be an outstanding success story in the years that come, whatever uncertainty we're facing.
There is a teeny story behind the name of Pineview Farms, and it's not very glamorous.
You were in the hospital.
Yeah, I was having a baby.
Yeah, with Liam, our first child.
Next day, the lawyer called Kevin and said, okay, so what do you want to call this place? You need to come up with a name. And Kevin looked at the pine trees down the driveway and said, it's going to be Pineview Farms, and came and told me that later. I was so not impressed, but I didn't have a choice because it was already on the papers. And a number of times we've looked at rebranding and changing and just decided, nah, people know us now, we're just going to run with this.
Greg and I must have been 4 or 5, and I declared to the family that I was running away. I packed my suitcase and I marched myself all the way to the end of our driveway, and there I sat. The door opened and out came my brother with a big bowl of popcorn, and he handed it to me in case I get hungry when I run away. And that speaks so much to how Greg has been my entire life. He has always brought the popcorn.
I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to, when I was a little kid, I wanted to go into space for sure. And you know, life happens, kids. But if all things were equal, I think I would have been the Prime Minister of Canada and an astronaut.
And I've been encouraging him. It's not too late.
One of the first things Marnie and I did when we first sat down together to talk about building this business, as we said, okay, there's going to be good times and there's going to be bad times. You can never quit on a bad time. So if you want out, turn the business around, and then you're welcome to leave.
We were making beer on your stove in your house, and we went to check on the fermentation of another batch. All of a sudden we heard your wife scream she had been out, and it was boiling over on the stove. So we always said that once we made it, we owed Lacey a stove, so I'm kind of waiting for that moment, I think. So Lacey probably is too.